You're watching Reality Check. After almost 30 highly contentious years, Assam's National Register of Citizens, a list meant to determine who is an Indian citizen and who is not, was published last year. This found that of the 3.3 crore people who had applied in Assam, just over 3 crore qualified, while 19 lakh, about 6%, were excluded. The BJP, which had been backing the NRC all this while, reacted with shock at the results. Why? Because by all accounts, it appeared that the 19 lakhs left out included Hindus as well, in equal if not higher proportion to Muslims. This ran counter to the BJP's rhetoric that the NRC would weed out millions of illegal Muslim immigrants from Bangladesh. Probably as a result, the NRC list, though it was published, has not been notified by the Registrar General of India. This means that those who've been left out have not received a formal rejection notice, and they cannot appeal against their exclusion. They've been in a limbo for the past year. In this time, the BJP-run government in Assam has asked the Supreme Court, which is monitoring the NRC, for a re-verification of the NRC, or at least 10 to 20% of all the names who've been included. The court so far hasn't accepted this request. So now, the BJP's critics say that the BJP has found a new way to exclude people, basically Muslims, who've made it into the NRC. Last week, the official heading the NRC sent out a letter to district authorities in Assam asking them to delete names of ineligible persons who'd made it into the final NRC list. Ineligible here is defined as those who are called doubtful voters, those who've been declared foreigners, or those who have cases pending before foreigners' tribunals. Now, to justify their move, the officials seem to be using a grey area or a technical loophole in the law. According to the rules, the verification of names and ordering, including or excluding, is possible only till the final list is published. Now, the government's own website repeatedly says that the final NRC was published on the 31st of August of last year. But officials now seem to be taking the argument that the NRC that came out is not final, since the Registrar General of India is yet to publish the final NRC as per the rules, which is why they say they can re-verify names and exclude people. And that image, or rather those two images on your screen, sum up this somewhat bizarre state of affairs. On one hand, you have a government website which is saying that it's the final NRC list which has been published, and on the other hand, you have another government official saying that actually, you know what, that list is not final and that it still has to be notified, and so we can still go in and try and exclude people who may have got in. All right, joining me first up is my colleague Ratnadeep Chaudhary, who's been tracking this big story. Now, Ratnadeep, you've been talking to officials within the NRC set up in Guwahati. You've also been talking to officials at the district level to try to understand what exactly is the rationale for this and how is this going to work. Have you been able to get any clear answers?
That's right, Vasu. In fact, I have been trying to follow up on this letter ever since this letter was released or sent to this district authorities. The DRC are the district level citizen registrars. In fact, have spoken to a lot of people within the NRC, also at district level. There seems to be lack of clarity in terms of how this is going to be made, because there are a few in some districts. The officials say that yes, they have found some discrepancies by a model which is known as quality check. Now, what is quality check? Quality check is part of the data model which was developed for the NRC. In fact, before the publication of the final NRC, a quality check of the data was done, but it is done randomly. It is done to find out whether the procedures which are laid in terms of verifying whether the person is eligible to be included in the NRC or not has been followed or not. But this is always done randomly. So what we have picked up is that this procedure was repeated, and during that some discrepancies were reported. Remember, even in that letter, the NRC coordinator points out that through web forms, the district authorities have written back to him, pointing out certain discrepancies. And now,
so basically, what you're saying is that some districts did a random sampling of people in their districts and found some discrepancies. On the basis of that, all districts have been asked to do this. But there are many unanswered questions in this. Number one, how many districts reported these wrongful entries? Number two, how many wrongful entries have been reported so far? Number three, are these districts going to review every single person who's made it to the NRC in their districts, or only do random sampling? Because if they're going to do all, then that means you're re-verifying the entire NRC. You're reopening that entire Pandora's box once again. And from what I understand, Ratnadeep, you couldn't get clear answers to any of these questions.
That's right. In fact, right at this moment, there is no clarity in terms of these questions. But remember, this is not for the first time that this kind of process has taken place. But before the publication of the final NRC, which was published last year, and after the publication of the full draft NRC, there was a publication of a separate exclusion list and extended exclusion list. But during that point of time, what the NRC authorities had done is that after the speaking orders were issued to different people who were excluded, they were also given scope for claims and objection. But in this case, in this letter at least, does not give any scope for claims or objections as well. To those people.
Right. All right. Thanks very much indeed for joining us, Ratnadeep. Let's go to our panel. We have with us Aman Wadood, human rights lawyer, is here with us. We have with us Shoaib Danyal, assistant editor, Scroll.in. Adil Singh Boparai of the Congress is with us. We're hoping to have a BJP voice on the show in just a second. Now, Aman Wadood, what do you make of this whole business where there seems to be an attempt to now reopen the NRC, with the government seemingly taking the line, or rather the NRC coordinator taking the line that, look, this is not the final list that came out last year because the list has not been notified, so we're going to go ahead and re-verify.
Okay, so the question is that the NRC state coordinator has questioned the finality of the NRC. Now let us examine, give me 2 minutes, I will try to explain whether this NRC is final or not. And I am not quoting any sources, I will quote the Honorable Supreme Court. What does the Honorable Supreme Court says? This order dated 24 January 2019, the Honorable Supreme Court says, at the same time to ensure the final NRC be published on the date specified by the court, that is 31st July 2019. The next order, 2nd February 2019. Again, the Supreme Court says, such work so that final NRC made and published on the stipulated date when? 31st July 2019. The next date, 13th March. This is the Honorable Supreme Court order. What does it say? It says, we accordingly direct the state coordinator to continue with the work to meet the deadline already set by this court for final publication of the NRC. When? 31st July 2019. Next order, 30th May. What does the Supreme Court say? The Honorable Supreme Court says that well in time to ensure publication of the final NRC on the date stipulated by the court, that is 31st July 2019. Now on 23rd of July, the state coordinator before the Honorable Supreme Court went, just 1 minute, just 2 seconds.
Quickly, yes.
The Honorable Supreme Court says that the learned coordinator in his report dated 10/7/2019 has sought for extension of time up to 38/1/2019 for publication of the final NRC. It was allowed. Just one order. This is just 1 second.
Aman, point made.
So NRC is the final NRC. That is what the Supreme Court says.
Point made that many times has it been clarified by the Supreme Court and others that in the government that this is the final list that came out last year. We've got with us Pramod Swami, spokesperson of the Assam BJP. Mr. Swami, explain this, because this is the allegation that there seems to be politics behind this, that once you have the final list that has come out, now in the middle of a pandemic to reopen it, clearly with a view to the fact that you have assembly elections next year in Assam.
नहीं देखिए ऐसा है कि फाइनल एनआरसी निकली है, लेकिन रजिस्टर जनरल ऑफ इंडिया ने अभी तक उसको पब्लिश नहीं किया है, और यहाँ कुछ दल संगठनों ने इस बात पर आपत्ति की है कि इसमें कई त्रुटियां रह गई है, और इसके पहले जो कोऑर्डिनेटर थे उन्होंने भी खुद इस बात का उल्लेख किया कि इसमें लीगेसी डाटा का मिसयूज किया गया है। तो
नहीं, बट स्वामी जी आप कह रहे हैं कि रजिस्ट्रार जनरल, लेकिन अभी तक हम जो सब पढ़ के सुना रहे हैं, हमने भी दिखाया, अमन वदूद ने भी पढ़ के सुनाया, जो पिछले साल जो लिस्ट आई थी वही तो फाइनल लिस्ट थी. दैट इज द फाइनल एनआरसी.
सर रजिस्टर जनरल ऑफ इंडिया ने अभी तक इसको पब्लिश नहीं किया है. आप इसको वेरीफाई कर ले. दूसरी बात इसमें जो
नहीं, रजिस्ट्रार जनरल ने पब्लिश नहीं किया है, ये बात सही है. और उन्होंने क्यों नहीं किया है ये भी किसी को समझ नहीं आ रहा है, बिकॉज ऑलमोस्ट 1 साल हो गया है. लेकिन जो लिस्ट है उसको सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने री-वेरीफाई से तो मना कर दिया है ना. सुप्रीम कोर्ट हैज सेड नो टू री-वेरिफिकेशन.
मैं बता रहा हूँ आपको, वही बात बता रहा हूँ. यहाँ कुछ दल संगठनों को आपत्ति थी और बॉर्डर एरिया में 20% री-वेरिफिकेशन और अन्य एरिया में 10% री-वेरिफिकेशन के लिए सुप्रीम कोर्ट में हमने याचिका दायर की थी.
वो तो रिजेक्ट हो गई.
याचिका दायर की,
वो रिजेक्ट हो गई.
कोर्ट ने उस याचिका को खारिज कर दिया और आसाम सरकार केंद्र सरकार के साथ मिलकर करके फिर याचिका दायर करने जा रही है. लेकिन
नहीं, तो यही सवाल है. देखिए ऐसा है प्रमोद जी, ऐसा है कि आपत्ति को तो सबको हो सकती है ना. ये तो एक एंडलेस प्रोसेस हो जाएगा कि मेरे को आपत्ति है तो आप पूरा लिस्ट खोलेंगे. मेरी बात सुन लीजिए, एक सेकेंड, मुझे सवाल पूछने दीजिए. सवाल मेरा ये है कि जब सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने आपको री-वेरिफिकेशन से मना कर दिया है, आप दोबारा सुप्रीम कोर्ट जा रहे हैं, तो जब तक आपको परमिशन नहीं मिल जाती आप दोबारा कैसे फिर री-वेरिफिकेशन करा रहे हैं?
नहीं, री-वेरिफिकेशन नहीं करा रहे. मेरी बात मैं आपको बता रहा हूं, आप मेरे को 2 मिनट क्लियर कर देता हूं.
री-वेरिफिकेशन तो हो रहा है.
नहीं, मेरी बात
आप वो एनआरसी कोऑर्डिनेटर का लेटर पढ़ लीजिए. ही इज सेइंग प्लीज री-वेरीफाई.
अरे मेरे को बोलने तो दीजिए सर, मैं बता रहा हूँ. आपने सवाल किया, मेरे को कुछ 2 मिनट का समय दीजिए आप प्लीज. ये अभी जो कोऑर्डिनेटर है उन्होंने कहा है कि जो इनएलिजिबल है, जो एलिजिबल नहीं है, जो अयोग्य है, उनको उनके बारे में जानकारी लीजिए. और जो डी वोटर माने डीएफ माने जो डिक्लेयर्ड कुछ जो डिक्लेयर्ड फॉरेनर्स है, डी वोटर.
नहीं स्वामी जी,
पेंडिंग इन फॉरेनर्स.
आई नो दैट.
एनआरसी में घुस गए,
बट वही उसी को तो री-वेरिफिकेशन कहते हैं.
बात सुन लीजिए.
नहीं, उसी को तो री-वेरिफिकेशन कहते हैं.
वेरीफाई करके हमको रिपोर्ट दीजिए, उसने यही कहा है.
तो दैट इज री-वेरिफिकेशन. पूरा एनआरसी वाज ओनली टू एक्सक्लूड दोस पीपल. नाउ इट बीन एक्सक्लूडेड, यू आर री-वेरीफाइंग. अच्छा चलिए.
फॉरेनर्स है ऑलरेडी, जो डिक्लेयर्ड फॉरेनर्स है ऑलरेडी, जो डी वोटर्स है ऑलरेडी, जो पेंडिंग इन फॉरेनर ट्रिब्यूनल्स है जिनके केस ऑलरेडी
इज दिस आदिल बोपाराय,
और उनके अगर उसमें नाम आ गए तो उसकी तो आपको जांच करनी पड़ेगी ना.
ओके, सो आदिल बोपाराय, Adil Boparai of the Congress, you're saying Congress has come out saying this is political. You've just heard Mr. Swami, he's saying some discrepancies have been found, so we are going ahead and investigating them.
Well, Srinivasan ji, firstly, this is an attempt to overreach the Supreme Court. Once the Supreme Court has rejected the centre and the Bharatiya Janata Party Assam government's request for re-ratification, the matter comes to an end. They must put a quietus to this. What they can't do directly, they can't do indirectly. This is as far as the legality of this is concerned. But unfortunately, over the past 6 years, the NRC exercise has become susceptible to political interference. Now, just because the numbers don't tally with the Bharatiya Janata Party's propaganda and their rhetoric, that does not make it faulty. Please understand this. The NRC, the original NRC, was an exercise which was envisaged to protect the indigenous population. Unfortunately, the Bharatiya Janata Party has reduced this to a tool to polarize our society. But coming to the larger question, is this the right time for such an exercise? We're in the middle of an unprecedented, unparalleled epidemic. We're in the worst economic recession in Indian history. There is unprecedented joblessness. The Bharatiya Janata Party has no vision in sight. And let me tell you...
But also, what is also happening is that election season is in the air. Seasons are in the air. And we are seeing now, not just now here, what has happened in Assam with the reopening, but also we had, let me finish, I'll come back to you. We also have election season approaching in West Bengal. Today, JP Nadda, and we'll queue up that, the little clip of the JP Nadda speech was in West Bengal. And remember that side by side, the Citizenship Amendment Act, CAA, which was passed last year, that also the rules have not been framed. So like the NRC, that's also been held in limbo, some believe, because of the protests. But Mr. Nadda is now saying in his campaign speech in West Bengal that don't worry, CAA is definitely going to come. Let's let's listen and then we go back to panel.
जहां तक CAA का सवाल है, सिटीजन्स अमेंडमेंट एक्ट, ये सिटीजन्स अमेंडमेंट एक्ट तो पास हो चुका है. आपको सिटीजन्स अमेंडमेंट एक्ट मिलेगा और मिलना तय है. अभी रूल्स बन रहे हैं. कोरोना के कारण थोड़ी सी उसमें रुकावट आ गई, कोरोना के कारण, लेकिन जैसे जैसे कोरोना हट रहा है वैसे वैसे रूल्स भी तैयार हो रहे हैं और वो बहुत जल्द आपको उसकी सेवा मिलेगी. इसको भी आप ध्यान में रखिएगा और इसको हम पूरा करेंगे.
So, Shoaib Daniel, what do you make of this? I mean, on one hand, you have this kind of, in a sense, backdoor attempt to re-enter or reopen the NRC, and now you have Mr. Nadda saying that CAA is also going to come. Is this rhetoric, you think, or you think that now, with election season in there, the BJP will have to walk the talk?
Well, I'm not surprised. The DNA of the Bharatiya Janata Party is to
Yeah.
divide India. Divide India on caste lines, divide India on religious lines. So
Adil, this was a question to Shoaib Daniel. I'll come back to you. Yes, Shoaib Daniel.
Yeah, so to understand, we must just get down to the chronology, as it were. So the whole NRC to CA process has been incredibly complex. It's Supreme Court which actually first took it up, to give credit where due.
Yes.
And it's only later that the BJP sort of hitched its wagon onto it.
Yes.
But it's when the draft list came out in 2018 and, when the final list was published in 2019, it seemed that a lot of the myths that were sort of built around migration to Assam were belied by the actual data.
Yes.
NRC,
yes,
as flawed a process as it was, is the best data that we have.
Yes.
And as a number of people have pointed out, A, the numbers are very small.
Yeah.
B, this is we know for a fact compared to the projections
Yes.
that were put out. Secondly, the numbers were, and we don't have exact numbers, but there are a large number of sources that point to the fact that the largest affected community were Hindu Bengalis.
Yes.
And
Citizens
this
Amendment
really
Act.
puts
ये Citizens
the
Amendment Act तो
BJP
पास
in
हो
a bit of
चुका
a quandary.
Yes.
Right?
आपको Citizens
Because
Amendment
Hindu
Act
Bengalis are a
मिलेगा.
big
Yes.
support base for it, not only in Assam, but as you sort of mentioned, it also affects West Bengal. So ever since this has happened, the BJP has been put in a quandary, and now that the elections are approaching, it wants to sort of do something towards that. And this is actually a very small.
Okay.
It's small. The numbers will be small, but it's a big precedent in terms of legality, because it shows that the NRC was expected to be a final seal on the Assam immigration debate, but actually it's not.
But it's still being kept open. Right.
So
So
it will be a Damocles sword hanging over whenever anybody wants to bring it up. It could be the BJP today, could be ASU.
Okay. So this is what you say is the sort of game plan. प्रमोद स्वामी जी, क्या फैक्ट यही है जो मैंने शुरू में भी कहा कि बेसिकली ये सारा खेल आपका जो बीजेपी का गेम प्लान पलट गया, बिकॉज आपने सोचा जब एनआरसी आएगा उसमें बहुत सारे, फ्रैंकली आपका इंप्रेशन था कि मुस्लिम्स उसमें से आ जाएंगे और उनको फिर आप इलीगल लेबल कर देंगे. वो नहीं हुआ. सिर्फ 19 लाख लोग पाए गए, उसमें से कई सारे हिंदू भी थे और मुसलमान भी थे. इसीलिए अब आप दोबारा उसको खुलवाने के उसमें हैं. चुनाव आ रहे हैं और आप उसको खुलवा रहे हैं पोलराइज करने के लिए.
देखिए, ये हिंदू मुस्लिम की राजनीति हम नहीं करते. हमारे लिए राष्ट्र प्रथम है, पार्टी द्वितीय है और इंडिविजुअल थर्ड है. माँ भारती की सेवा के लिए भारतीय जनता पार्टी काम करती है.
बट आपके लीडर तो खुद कह चुके हैं.
आप मेरे को बोलने दीजिए.
नहीं, आपके लीडर, मैं बस ये पॉइंट आउट कर रहा हूं, आपके लीडर खुद बोल चुके हैं कि ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है कि जहां हिंदू मेजॉरिटी डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स हैं वहां पे लोग इलीगल पाए जा रहे हैं और मुस्लिम मेजॉरिटी डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स में नहीं. तो उन्होंने तो साफ कर दिया.
मैं बता रहा हूँ
कि उनका क्या मेन प्रॉब्लम है इससे.
मैं बता रहा हूँ आपको कि हम चुनाव को देख के राजनीति नहीं करते. अगर चुनाव को देख के राजनीति करते तो सेकंड टर्म्स के पहले साल में 35 से और 370 नहीं हटते. 3 तलाक बिल लेके नहीं आते. हमारे लिए राष्ट्र हित में क्या जरूरी है वो देख करके हम काम करते हैं. सत्ता हमारे लिए महत्वपूर्ण नहीं है. तो सत्ता हमारे लिए मात्र साधन है.
नहीं, वो सब ठीक है.
हमारे लिए साधन है. और
But-
ये घुसपैठ की समस्या आसाम के अस्तित्व के संकट की समस्या है, इसको आप
But वो तो-
दिल्ली में बैठ कर नहीं समझ सकते।
नहीं,
ये
दिल्ली
घुसपैठ
में बैठने की
समस्या
बात
आप
नहीं
दिल्ली
है।
में
सुप्रीम
नहीं समझ
कोर्ट
सकते।
इसको मॉनिटर कर रहा है।
और मैं बता रहा हूँ,
नहीं, एक सेकंड, स्वामी जी,
महात्मा गांधी ने
सुप्रीम
भारत
कोर्ट
सभा
इसको
में
मॉनिटर कर रहा है कि नहीं कर रहा है?
कहा था कि
सुप्रीम कोर्ट इज
हिंदू,
मॉनिटरिंग इट,
ये मुस्लिम
लिस्ट
और
आ
सिख के
चुकी
ऊपर
है,
अगर अत्याचार होता है तो
लिस्ट
भारत
आ
पर
चुकी
आ
है,
सकते
आपको
हैं।
तसल्ली नहीं है।
आजादी के समय में पाकिस्तान में हिंदुओं की संख्या 23% थी, आज 2011
स्वामी
में
जी,
मात्र
उसका
3.9%
उसका और आज के डिबेट का क्या लेना देना है? Anyway, अमन वदूद, अच्छा स्वामी जी मैं आता हूँ आपके पास। अमन वदूद, what is the recourse here now? Can this be taken to the Supreme Court? What is happening now in Assam?
असुविधा की बात है, देश की सुरक्षा की बात है।
Aman Vadud.
Well, see, the Honorable Supreme Court is still monitoring the case. So, logically, this should go to the Supreme Court.
Yes.
There are intervener, there are necessary parties. I'm sure they should go to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court should decide whether the state coordinator has any authority to issue such letter. Now, one point I want to make.
Yes, quickly.
There is an interesting chronology. On Times of India reports that on 12th of October, the Chief Minister says this NRC is flawed and we will not accept it. On 13th October, the NRC state coordinator issued this notice saying that NRC is yet to be published. And he says that clause 7, according to clause 7, NRC has not been published by the Registrar General of India. Now the clause 7 says that after all this process, NRC shall be published by the RGI. More than 1 year has passed. Why has the NRC not been published?
That is the
Who falls
most
under
mystifying thing. That is the most
Exactly.
mystifying thing.
Now RGI is yours, state coordinator is yours. You will not publish the NRC.
Yeah,
and after
why
a year
exactly?
you will come and say, oh, it has not been published.
Why sit on the
Amazing.
Why sit on the NRC, publish it so that people who've been excluded can appeal it? But that's not happening. Adil Boparai, we're literally out of time. Quick last word from you.
Well, Srinivasanji, I would just, if the BJP and Mr. Amit Shah is watching your program, I want to point out that the country which they used to so lovingly deride and reduce to a punching bag, Bangladesh, is performing much better than India on multiple economic parameters. And this is happening because India, which was way ahead in the Committee of Nations on the economic powerhouse side, today is riddled with divisive politics. The Bharatiya Janata Party's politics of divide, distract, and demolish institutions is costing us in every respect. The BJP needs to stop this.
Right.
They're destroying our syncretic culture. They are riddling this entire process with and shrouding it with
Will you
political
go to court?
machinations.
Will the Congress go to court against this?
Well, all options are open. All options are
Okay.
open. This entire process, which has been initiated now, is contrary to law, is arbitrary.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see what happens. But certainly reopened once again this very contentious Pandora's box in the middle of a pandemic. Thank you all so much for joining me on Reality Check. Thanks so much for watching. That's all the time we have. Good night.